أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له، ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء، واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله قولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم، ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد، وإن خير الحديث كتاب الله، وإن خير الهدي هدي محمد المصطفى صلى الله عليه وسلم، وشر الأمور محدثاتها، وكل محدثة بدعة، وكل بدعة ضلالة، وكل ضلالة في النار. أما بعد. يا إخوة المسلمين يا عباد الله, all thanks and praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Indeed, we glorify Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we seek His mercy, His blessings, and we beg for His forgiveness. I testify to the absolute fact that there is no deity, no one worthy of any deification except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for He is indeed alone and has no partners, and whomsoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides, none can lead astray, and whomsoever He left astray, none can provide guidance to. And I bear witness that Muhammad ibn Abdullah Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is indeed the last and final messenger. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. He was sent as a mercy, as a compassion, as a benefactor, as an intercessor for all of creation في يوم القيامة. يا إخوة المسلمين يا عباد الله. قال الله تعالى في كتاب الكريم: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا قوامين بالقسط شهداء لله ولو على أنفسكم أو الوالدين وأقربين. صدق الله العظيم. قال الله تعالى في كتاب الكريم: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. أذن للذين آمنوا قاتلون ظلم أذن للذين قاتلوا. The zone, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam, welcome to the blessed day of the week. Nay, welcome to the blessed hour of the blessed day of the week. Nay, welcome to the blessed minute of the blessed day of the blessed hour of the week. The most blessed of the minutes within this day is when the Imam sits between the first and the second khutbah. My request to myself first and to all of you on this day, in this minute, lift your hands to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and make dua for our brothers and sisters in Palestine. Make dua sincerely to our brothers and sisters in Palestine, for our children in Palestine, in Syria, in Yemen, and I can continue probably for another 15 minutes listing the places across the globe. Welcome also to the courtroom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Welcome not to the courtroom of any government, not to the Supreme Court. Welcome to the court where the evidence is strong, where there's no ambiguity, there's no twisting in the evidence. It is the strongest evidence in the most just courtroom. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala stated in the 4th chapter of Al-Quran al-Kareem, Surah An-Nisa, the woman. Let me present to the world the justice of Islam, not the justice of any nation, of any country, of the international tribunal, because we see within our lifetime, most of you that is sitting in this masjid, in the 90s, in the mid-90s, when everyone allowed for the slaughtering of our brothers and sisters, the state-sanctioned rape of our sisters in Bosnia, and the World Watch, and the courtrooms deliberated. And they concluded that never again such atrocity will happen on the face of this earth. What we see a few years after what happened in Mogadishu. Then we see what happened in Afghanistan. Then we see what happened in Iraq. And we say, never again. And then we stand and see, just a few years ago, what happened in Myanmar or Rohingya brothers and sisters. We see that our daughters are being delivered babies, not because of nikah, because of state-sanctioned rape in the Cox's Valley in Bangladesh as we speak. And we went to the United Nations and we said, no more this will happen. And we witnessed in the most blessed month of the year, on the most sacred night, while the Quran is descending on that night in Masjid al-Aqsa, we see the tyranny and oppression of our brothers and sisters. Let me say to the world, the justice of Islam, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fi kitab al-Kareem, in Surah An-Nisa, the 4th chapter, entitled The Woman. And it's interesting, this surah is entitled The Woman, and you will think that of the topic of this surah will commence with the woman. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala begins this surah about the miskin and the yatim. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O Ahl al-Kitab, O people of the book, O Jews, O Christians, O Muslims, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, kunu qawwamina bil qist. Be upholder of justice. Be upholders of justice. Shuhada lillah, and be a witness to this upholding of this justice. وَلَوْ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِكُمْ, even if this justice is against my own self. أَوِ الْوَالِدَيْنِ, if it's against my own parents. وَالْأَقْرَبِينَ, if it's against my own tribesmen, my countrymen, my neighbor, my associates. Stand up for justice. This reminds me of a battle that would just transpire across this globe. One of the eponymous battle, the decisive battle of Islam, the battle that would break or make Islam, the Battle of Khandaq. The Battle of Khandaq, the third most prominent battle in the annals of Islamic history, named in the history of the world. And the justice of the participant in battle, the concern for women and children, that when you stand in battle, not of offensive, but to stop aggression, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us so profoundly, laying out the ground rules. When you engage in battle, you speak with the eye of Al-Quran al-Kareem, you don't go against the Quran. The problem with us across the globe, this ummah, we are disconnected from Al-Quran al-Kareem. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lays out the groundwork when we engage in battle. The first order of battle in the history of Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we see this ayah with sabr that comes. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أُذِنَ لِلَّذِينَ يُقَاتَلُونَ. That this zulm, that you've been called to defend the zulm, but have patience that the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will come. The help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will come, but the help can only come when we put ourselves in order first. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us in this surah that be upholder of justice. That in this courtroom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it will be the most just courtroom. On the most just day, that this should give comfort to you, that the one that will deliberating the cases for us will be Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the best of judges. And on that day, when Allah will prepare for the scene of this courtroom, إِذَا زُلْزِلَتِ الْأَرْضُ زِلْزَالَهَا, that this earth will regurgitate its burden. It will be in a state of convulsion. And Allah calls it a burden upon this earth. When we will come up, all of us, on that day, we will rise up from the earth after the trumpet is blown. إِذَا زُلْزِلَتِ الْأَرْضُ زِلْزَالَهَا وَأَخْرَجَتِ الْأَرْضُ أَثْقَالَهَا. This earth will be shaken and just vomit everything from its inner core. وَأَرْضُ أَثْقَالَهَا وَقَالَ الْإِنسَانُ مَا لَهَا. And we will all stand up and we'll say, what's happening? Yes, what's happening? We will ask each other. And just before we go into the earth, Allah describes us, we will be in this state of sakarat al-maut. We will be in the state of drunkenness, intoxication, in the pangs and disorientation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, when He raises you on that day, you will be in a state of sakarat. But this state, you will start to begin to gain your senses. Little by little, you will come to your senses. What's happening? Inna al-insan. The insan will ask each other, what's happening? ما لها وأخرجت الأرض أثقالها وقال الإنسان ما لها يومئذ تحدث أخبارها. And the great akhbar will be in front of us. The great news will be in front of us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will show this akhbar, this great news of what transpired just within the few weeks that we see, we witness to it, we will see this akhbar. يَوْمَئِذٍ يَصْدُرُ النَّاسُ أَشْتَاتًا لِيَرَوْا أَعْمَالَهُمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on that day, the day of the courtroom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, He will put you into groups. The angel will come and escort you. You go with that group. You go with this group. You, the soldiers of the Israeli army, you go here. You, the oppressor in Yemen, in Syria, you go here. And we will have this scene, this courtroom, where we will know each other. I will see, this was my neighbor. How are you? Welcome to the courtroom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Welcome to the courtroom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yawma idin. On that day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our mawazeen will be weighed. Be an auditor of your life today before it's audited in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ask yourself today, if death comes to you, are you ready? The reason why we fear death is that we are not ready. Because this test came to the Bani Israel that said, if with your arrogance, if you are truthful in what you're saying, what you're doing, what you're oppressing, then face death. They are afraid of death because they know they're not ready for death. Those who committed this atrocity, ask them if they're ready for death. Our brothers and sisters who have succumbed to the bullets and the bombs is in Jannah. Is in Jannah. The ones who pull the trigger, they will have their day in court. I'm not talking about the international court. This day of Akbar, we will see it. We will see our dad next to us. And what's interesting, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this will not be a 90-minute Hollywood movie. This will not be a 3-hour Bollywood movie. This will be a movie that you wrote in a scripted form in the cover. When the angel of man says, write, and let me remind you, what you forget, let me remind you, write what you did on this day, where you did it, how you did it, who you did it with. Write it. And on the day of Akbar, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will put it in your personal autobiography. That which I'm hiding from my brother will be revealed in front of us. Yeah, Shaffieq, this is what you used to do after the khutbah. Your Ar-Rahman will be in front of you. The Ar-Rahman of the oppressor will be in front of us, my dear brothers and sisters. We will see the justice of the ones who pulled the trigger, the ones who pressed the button for the bomb that killed that 2-year-old daughter of us in Palestine. We will see the Akbar on the day of Yawm al-Qiyamah. Has-sabr. Iktaraba lin-nasi hisabuhum wa hum fi ghaflatin muqridun. This disease of ghafla, of arrogance that we have, it's right in front of us. Iktaraba lin-nas. It is in front of us. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that our hisab, being muhasib now, before on the day of Yawm al-Qiyamah. Audit yourself now. Before your audit in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we will see this film. And what's interesting is that we not only will see the people who pull the trigger, we will not see the people who spread the lies about our brothers in the community. We will see the consequence of that lie. We will see how far that lie destroyed our brothers. We will see the consequences of the aid and the financing of this atrocity. We will see where it comes from, who pockets it come from on that day of Akbar. Don't worry. This is the courtroom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We will see this namima that you spread on the telephone. Not only that you will see the video on the day of Akbar, that I pick up the phone and I call this brother and I lie. I will see how far that traveled, how many families it affected, how many people, what the consequences. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَوْمَ إِذٍ يَسْدُرُ النَّاسُ أَشْتَاتًا لِيَرَوْا أَعْمَالَهُم. The fruit of the amal, the fruit of your action. We will not only see, you see, if you go to the courtroom today, we see how they mess with the evidence. We see if you have money, you can buy justice. Not on the day of Akbar, not on the day of Hisab. We see on this day that the evidence is so strong that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will tell your hands to speak. soldier pulled the trigger on that child? Who ordered the pressing of that button with this finger? Speak. Who put that father in Shaffieq Harar, that before he went to give the morgue his daughter Yamla, he said, bring my daughter Yamla, let me kiss her before you put her into the morgue. Listen to the name of these children. When we get children in America, give them good names. Give them names of our brothers and sisters of Palestine, the names they give their children. Because there will be witness one day, on this day of Akhbar, bring my daughter Yamla, let me kiss her before you put her in the cold box. Bring my son Islam, let me kiss him before you put him in the cold box. Bring my son Mohamed, let me kiss him before you put him in the cold box. I was at a rally in Westchester County at 5 o'clock yesterday. And I posted a video. If there were 100 people protesting in that rally, there were 10 Muslims. There were 50 Jews who I personally went to speak to. The rest were Hispanic people from different churches, protesting justice to the people of Palestine. Ali, the son of Abu Talib, he says that the Muslims are asleep. أَلْهَاكُمُ التَّكَاثُرُ حَتَّى زُرْتُمُ الْمَقَابِرَ. And they become awake when they enter into the cupboard. This tyranny that we see this recurring atrocity that Imam Shaffieq says that if the earth can speak, the earth will say that I've never seen a more wicked people walk upon me like I'm seeing now. This was the time of Imam Shaffieq. What would he say now? What Imam Shaffieq would say now? He also said that worse than the sin itself, the crimes, is to trivialize that sin. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. I rage and rant in the masjid. I curse this one out. I went clubbing. It's not a big deal. The trivializing the sin is the sin is bragging about the sin. Post it. Post it on social media. Like we see the video that the people came and said we should kill all the Palestinian children because kill them now to prevent them from becoming terrorists later as adults. Publicly, worse than the sin itself is to brag about this sin. Imam Shaffieq is saying this, that worse than the sin is to trivialize the sin. Worse than the sin and trivializing the sin is about bragging about the sin. He says worse about bragging about the sin. These people who support this oppression, who is in America, who is in Germany, who is in France, is saying, I wish I was there with you to partake in this sin and this oppression and this atrocity. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, He will make your hands speak. He will make these feet speak. Where did you go? When did you go? We'll see it on your autobiography. We will see this film in detail. In details. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if that evidence is not strong enough in this courtroom, well then I will tell the earth to speak. Where you committed this atrocity? Is it in this 24 most contested square miles of land on this planet Earth? It is that place that the greatest conference has ever occurred in human history. It is that place when you have evolved as a human being, you talk about human rights. We talk about human rights. You ask those who talk about human rights first, before you talk about the rights, define who's a human being. Define who's a human being. Let the PhD seculars come and define for us. Define a human being for me. They will say a human being, with all due respect, is amino acid and protein that come together and go through this process and go through this evolution and becomes a monkey and evolve from a monkey to a human being. This is the intellect of the world. This is the worldview of what a human being. Don't talk about human rights if you can't define what a human being is. A human being, according to the definition of Allah, is not those criminals that we see that slaughter children. In that same land, a human being is a representative of Allah on this earth. That's the definition of a human. Forget about human rights. They haven't even gone to human rights. I'm coming to human rights according to the human being who have attained that state of nafs, that evolved in that state. فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. On that same land where the blood of our children is still fresh. We have also an example on that land of the greatest, one of the greatest human beings. Talk about human rights when you come according to the definition of Allah, according to the definition of Al-Quran Al-Kareem. Allah defines to us as if He knew that the blood of our children will be shed there. He says on that same land, on that same Masjid Al-Aqsa, I'm not talking about Dome of the Rock that you see. I'm talking about Masjid Al-Aqsa that was built by a man who have attained and evolved, not from a monkey, but evolved as a vicegerent, as a representative of Allah to the best of example of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're not thinking about hurting a child. We're not the greatest man with the greatest power and the greatest empire. Not an iota of arrogance. The same man that built Al-Aqsa, that walked that land, he was concerned about the ant. He was concerned about walking to crush that ant. And he listened to the ant, and the ant said, Sulaiman and his mighty army is coming. Retreat. Sulaiman smiled, and he heard the ant. And he says, no. He picked the ant up and says, I will not crush you. Who is the most powerful right now? He asked the ant. And we know a chapter was named of the ant, and we talked about it a few nights ago. He lifted the ant up in his hand. On that same land where children are being slaughtered, Sulaiman alayhi salam lifted the ant up and asked the ant, who is the most powerful now? The ant says, I am the most powerful. Sulaiman says, how is that? The ant says, no wonder Allah, an insignificant creature that you buy, bug and kill them every summer in your homes. That Sulaiman is asking the ant, the surah of the ant. This is Islam. This is justice. This is concern for every life. That Sulaiman is asking the ant, who's the most powerful of them all? The ant says, I am. He says, how is that? He says, you see, I am sitting in the hand of Sulaiman, the Prophet of Allah, the son of Dawood, who have taken down Goliath. I am the most powerful. You are just Sulaiman, you standing on the earth. Subhanallah. That is the justice. That is the humility of a man of human rights, of humanity, not the human rights they're defining. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, وَلَا تَمْشِ فِي الْأَرْضِ مَرَحًا إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ كُلَّ مُخْتَالٍ فَخُورٍ. Don't carry yourself because you have this supporter of other nation. Don't carry yourself in a state of arrogance that you can walk into someone's home and throw them on the street. That man is living for 6 months who were born in that house in 1962, who got nikah in that house, who raised his children in that house, and for 6 months he's sitting in front of his home and watch someone else live in that home. Think about that. You're going to your house, you will press your garage door, drive in, you go into your house, and, sitting. Look at this psychological torture. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that don't walk this land, don't carry yourself in this state of haughtiness, in this state of arrogance, as if you're going to rend this earth asunder, that you have more dominance, that you can kill who you want to kill, you can evict who you want to evict, you can do whatever you want to do, because you have the enablers of the world supporting you. You see, sometimes the supporters is the one that should be held more accountable than the one you support. Because if you cut the support line, they can't do anything. It's the one that, in the Battle of Khandaq, the Bani Qurayza, the Bani Nadir, they all came as a confederate. And we see this happening now. Same thing. And as a matter of fact, it happened in the same month, in the month of Shawwal. Just out of Ramadan, the confederates came and said, we will take out the Muslims once and for all. Take them out. Kill them while they are children, so that they'll grow up to be adults. The confederates, they tried this, my dear brothers and sisters. They tried this. They formed an alliance that came to the Prophet ﷺ. But on that day of Khandaq, justice prevailed. That the son of Abu Talib, he was up to fight just before the battle commences. They enter into a duel. Who will come and face the most fierce Arab fighter in human history? Amr ibn Wahb. Who will fight him? Who will challenge him on that day in the Battle of Khandaq? None of the companions stepped forward. This man was never defeated in any battle. You can go on Google, read about this battle. Ali bin Abi Talib, the son of Abu Talib, came forward and said, Ya Rasulullah, I will take him. He said, Ali. He went up to Amr ibn Wahb. He says, aren't you the son of Abu Talib? He said, yes. He said, I'm a friend of your father. And I will be easy on you. Ali says, but I'm not a friend of you. I'm a friend. You're an enemy of Allah. And the fighting commences, Ali bin Abi Talib. And Amr bin Wahb struck him in the head. And he fell. He regained consciousness. And he's fighting. And every time he had the upper hand to take Amr bin Wahb, he would retreat. And he would retreat. And then he came in and suddenly with one blow took the most fearful fighter in Arab history. When the fight finished, they asked, Ya Ali, why every time you go to take a blow, to take him out, you retreat? This is the most fierce fighter. You get a chance to take him down. Why do you retreat? Look at the justice in battle. In the time of battle of the exemplar of Islam, that Ali says, every time I go to take him out, he will spit on me and he will make me angry. And he will never take a life of someone who made me angry. But that one time when I go towards him, he cursed Allah. And no one cursed Allah when I am there. And that is when I took the blow. Why did you take one blow, Ya Ali? He says, because it is one blow he gives to me. And I will not take more than that blow, because it will become an injustice on me. That is the justice. Let the world know the justice of Al-Quran al-Kareem. This is the justice. I'm not talking about the justice of the Muslims. No. In the courtroom of the Muslim countries, no. I'm talking about the justice in the pages of the Book of Allah that was sent by the most noblest of Messenger Jibreel to the noblest of Messenger Mohamed, who Allah honored so much that he would say, Ya Musa, Ya Ibrahim, Ya Isa, Ya Sulaiman, Ya Dawood, Ya Zulkif, Ya Idris, but never Ya Muhammad in the entire Quran al-Kareem. Out of the love, he will say, Ya Rasulullah, Ya Rahmatan lil Alameen. that when he introduced this messenger in Al-Quran al-Kareem, he says in Surah Al-Baqarah, in the beginning, he says, وَإِن كُنْتُمْ فِي رَيْبٍ مِّمَّا نَزَّلْنَا عَلَىٰ عَبْدِنَا فَأْتُوا بِسُورَةٍ مِّن مِّثْلِهِ. If you can bring better than what comes from the lip of Muhammad in the book of Al-Quran al-Kareem, let the world bring an ayah that is better than the justice of the ayah of Surah Al-Nisa, the 4th chapter of Al-Quran al-Kareem. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring justice to injustice. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والذي لا إله إلا هو الملك القدوس السلام المؤمن المهيمن العزيز الجبار المتكبر سبحان الله عما يشركون. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mighty, He's majestic, He's magnificent, He's وَرَبَّكَ تَكَبِّرْ. My dear brothers and sisters, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is above all which they ascribe unto Him. My appeal to myself first. My ears is closest to my mouth. And then to all of you, with sincerity, turn to Allah. The best of weapon we have on this day of Jumu'ah, it is not the sword that they say that spread Islam. It is not the bullet. It is not the bomb. But it's when we lift our hands to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring justice. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala liberate our brothers and sisters from this tyranny and this oppression once and for all. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala free our children, protect them, our women, our brothers and sisters in Syria, in Yemen, in Kashmir, in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in Africa, and in so many other parts of the world. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring justice to this world. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring dignity to this ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allahumma ahdina fi man hadayt, wa afina fi man afayt, wa tawallana fi man tawallayt, wa barik lana fi ma atayt, wa qina sharra ma qadayt, wa inna taqdi wa la yuqda alayk. نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. عباد الله رحمكم الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. وادعوا يستجب لكم ولذكر الله تعالى أعلى وأولى عز وجل وأتم وأمن وأكبر في الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. اللهم